People really understand the key role politics plays in their day-to-day lives. Politics is not just about campaigns, rallies, or who is louder than who, or who is packing more crowds than who. Politics is about leaders we elect, leaders who are supposed to prioritize the needs of the same citizens who put them into power. And this week, as we dive into episode 2 of Keeping Up with Kenya's Political Drama, Kenya might be witnessing one of the toughest economic moments in recent years. Fuel prices have been increased for the second time in less than a month. And suddenly, the price of tomatoes may have only been the beginning. Because once fuel prices go up, everything else follows. Transport, food, electricity, business costs, and ultimately, the burden falls on the common mwananchi. This week, we break down the shocking fuel price hikes and the growing anger from Kenyans.
Nataka niwaambie hii mafuta inaongezwa usiku na mchana. Mimi nataka niwaeleze ya kwamba these people don't understand the damage they are doing to the people and the economy of Kenya. Kwa hii taxes wanaongeza usiku na mchana. Na mimi nataka niwaulize watu wa hapa Manga, tafadhali, mkiona tumesimama hapa mbele yenu, tunawaambia ya kwamba tutengeneze hiyo serikali inakuja.
Mnauza ngapi? Pesa ngapi? Shapanda. Na 46. Hi guys, Eric Omondi here. The cost of living in this country is extremely high. Kila kitu ni expensive. Nyanya imepanda, school fees imepanda, unga imepanda, mafuta imepanda, maisha imepanda. And we must get to a point where we say enough is enough. Because leaders are living in opulence. They're living in luxury. While the common mwananchi, the cost of living is going up every single day. Lazima tufike mahali tuseme enough is enough. And this Monday, hii Monday kama mafuta haijateremka. Hii Monday kama haijateremka. Tupatane tao. Tupatane tao. Hii Monday kama mafuta haijapanda, tupatane tao. Kila mtu abebe kibuyu, usipande matatu, kama utoki mbali tembea na mguu. Tuingie tao.
Hapo sawa, hapo sawa.
Because in Kenya, politics is no longer just politics. Politics now determines whether you can afford fare, food, rent, or even survive the month. Back in 2021, when fuel prices hit around 150 shillings per litre, leaders allied to the then Deputy President William Ruto were everywhere condemning President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Mr. Speaker, I was in Busia County, represented by distinguished Amos Wako. Mr. Speaker, there was a queue of vehicles of Kenyans crossing to Uganda to buy fuel. Fuel to Uganda, to Rwanda, to Burundi, to Eastern Congo is imported through Mombasa, passes through Kenya. How come fuel in Goma, Boni and Butembo in Congo is cheaper than fuel in Kenya? Mr. Speaker, it doesn't make any economic sense. What can you speak on taxation, Madam Speaker, for 2 minutes? And you turn progressively a House of Parliament into a voting machine. In fact, it becomes now an extension of the executive. People sit in the treasury. They don't interact with ordinary people. They don't know how ordinary people are acting. They simply think that tax the Kenyan as much as you can to solve your problems. Madam Speaker, I don't believe the explanation being channeled out, and I listen to the proceedings in the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, rely on kerosene for lighting, for cooking. 100% of our economy relies on fuel, Madam Speaker. I cannot remember any time in the recent past when fuel prices went up to the extent that we saw recently. Kerosene alone went up by 12 shillings. Petrol, Madam Speaker, and as we are doing this, the price of crude worldwide is coming down. There is a girl in one of the TV stations called Okwara. I saw her analyzing the price increases on TV, and she said the culprit is one, taxation. Who taxes Kenyans, Madam Speaker? It is not the executive. It is Parliament. We can't blame President Uhuru for levying taxes on Kenyans. He brings proposals. It's parliament that taxes Kenyans. And the parliament that is taxing Kenyans are the same ones standing up to apologize for taxing Kenyans. I even see some of them standing in field roads and decrying the high cost of fuel when they know it is them who have imposed on every liter of fuel we're paying taxes of up to 72 shillings. That is why, as I already read to you, landlocked countries that have nothing, how do you expect countries like Swaziland, a little island in the middle of South Africa with nothing, having fuel cheaper than Kenya, with all the bounty we have? How do you expect the fuel moving from Mombasa for 2,000 kilometers to Butembo in Congo, and it is cheaper there than here? And then, Madam Speaker, to add insult to injury, to take soul and wrap in a sore wound, we summon the minister responsible to come and explain to the House of the Representatives of the People of Kenya, and the minister doesn't show up, gives no explanation, doesn't care.
We have an economy and a country that is being run like a juakali. Why is the president so silent? The president should come out so loudly and save Kenyans. He is aware of it, and he is quiet in the State House when people are suffering.
They cannot bring their pride and arrogance to this house. We will deal with them. We will not entertain that kind of rudeness, that kind of indecency.
Our leadership has failed. There is nothing to hide.
We will carry your cross. Handshake government must be accountable to the people of Kenya for the things they did for the last 4 years.
The message was simple. Life is becoming unbearable. Fast forward to 2026, fuel prices are now reportedly crossing shocking levels, going past 240 Kenyan shillings, and suddenly the same leaders have gone quiet. So, what changed? The fuel or the seats they occupy? Because when you are in opposition, you have the freedom to condemn pain, but once in government, silence becomes strategy.
How come that fuel in Uganda is cheaper than fuel in Kenya? So, and yet the fuel being sold in Uganda goes through Kenya.
Even President William Ruto himself questioned why fuel in Uganda appears cheaper than fuel in Kenya. At the same time, Senator Mutuse claimed Kenyans should direct their anger towards global events, including tensions involving Iran and international oil markets.
Nyinyi mnasema imepanda, ndio imepanda, na sisi wote tunataka ishuke, lakini tunataka kumweleza wananchi ukweli. Ule ambaye anataka mafuta ishuke, tufanye diplomasia, tutoke hapa, twende tukaongee na Trump, tumwambie awachane na vita Iran, ndio bei ya mafuta katika dunia mzima iweze kushuka chini.
And then comes Rigathi Gachagua.
I have received information that this profit that the president and his partners from increased fuel prices has been used to purchase tallow oil in Turkana at $120 million US, and that is approximately 15.6 billion shillings. That is why they are in a haste to buy, to increase prices, to make more profit, to be able to buy tallow oil that is in
Rigathi Gachagua. 2 weeks ago, Ricky G warned Kenyans there would be a 40 shillings increase in fuel prices. And true to that prediction, weeks later, the fuel prices went up by exactly 40 shillings. So, Gachagua went even further, claiming that on the night of April 5th and 6th, 2026, a high-powered Kenyan delegation allegedly traveled to Dubai, led by Energy CS Wandanyi, EPRA officials and oil stakeholders to renegotiate fuel prices arrangements with international suppliers.
Yes. Border riders will increase their charges because most industries use diesel. Consumer products will go up, and Kenyans in anguish. As we speak, many roads are empty. Kenyans are not able to fuel their vehicles, and we are staring at a national crisis, and things are very bad. And what we must tell the people of Kenya, the crisis that we face of increased prices for fuel has nothing to do with international challenges. It has nothing to do with the war in Iran. It has nothing to do with increased oil prices in the world. As I said the last time I talked about fuel, the crisis that we face is one of state capture and conflict of interest, where President William Ruto and Gulf Energy are the ones doing the business of fuel importation, and they have topped up too much profit to fleece the people of Kenya. The challenge that we face today has nothing to do with international prices, because when you look at the neighboring East African countries who are importing oil from the same source in the Middle East, their prices are down. Why the prices here are up is because President William Ruto, his business partners, Gulf Energy, are taking too much profit to fleece the people of Kenya. If you look at the comparison, today as we speak, in Kenya, petrol is 214 Kenya shillings. Diesel is 243 Kenya shillings. Our neighbors here in Uganda, who bring their fuel through Kenya from Mombasa by road, which means their fuel is supposed to be higher than Kenya.
According to Ricky G, that ship is connected to the current painful prices Kenyans are seeing today. And suddenly, the same man, yule wa shares, yule Mkabila, and once the closest ally of Ruto, is now positioning himself as one of the loudest critics of the government. But is Rigathi Gachagua truly trying to rescue Kenyans, or is he simply a bitter former insider trying to remain politically relevant after falling out with his former boss? Because according to Gachagua himself, Ruto allegedly promised he would become politically irrelevant after he was forcibly kicked out of the government.
Most of you, unavutwa tu kazi ya supervisor, unaanza kunywa dawa. Wengine wanajinyonga, wengine wanakuwa devastated, they cannot recover. Mimi nilinyang'anywa kazi, nimetafuta ya deputy president. Nimetafuta 7.2 million people wamenipigia kura, nimenyang'anywa. Today, the history of Rigathi Gachagua is clear. Nobody can stop your destiny. When William Ruto aliamua kunitoa, alidanganywa na hii kijana anaitwa Ichung'wa ya Kikuyu. Ati ukitoa hii mtu, wiki mbili atasaulika. Atakuwa amehurika, hataweza hata ongea. He will never be able to face anybody because of shame. And Ruto was convinced. Today, they talk about Rigathi Gachagua from morning to evening. Their greatest headache in Kenya is Ricky G. Sindio? They are spending almost about 50 million every month. National Intelligence Service.
And ever since then, Ricky G has had something to say about almost everything. The matatu sector is now warning Kenyans that things could become even worse. Some operators are threatening nationwide protest and possible strikes if nothing changes.
I want to ask, if our fuel comes from the Strait of Hormuz, what war have we gone as Kenyans? Ni vita gani tumeingia? There are many other countries that produce oil. Don't force us into a war that we did not start and we're not interested in. If this government is interested in joining the war in Israel, let the individuals raise their hands. Buy oil from anywhere and everywhere. EPRA was set with the hope that it would actually regulate this industry to the benefit of society. Now EPRA has become the biggest place for cartels to tax Kenyans to death.
On Monday, there will be strictly no movement of any vehicles, or the roads will be blocked until the government listens to our cry, because we've been promised and everything we are promised has not come to fruition. And lastly, we are urging all our investors in the public transport that effective immediately we are increasing our fares by 50%.
We know very well, and I want it to go very clear, that our tourists are going to be affected as we are going to stage this demonstration. The tourism department and ministry should be aware that many tourists are going to get stuck, and they are going not going to be able to reach their destination.
All transport network companies, wherever they are, be aware that we are going to increase our prices by 50% because we don't have the mechanism. We are going to take it upon ourselves. And I caution you, please, don't dare block any driver. Don't dare block any driver. If you don't want to go the hard way, ensure that you cooperate. For our clients, you know what is happening. It's beyond our measures.
Others have warned that fares could increase by 50%, meaning if you were paying 50 Kenyan shillings to town or to CBD, you will now start paying 100 Kenyan shillings. And when fuel prices go up, everything else follows. Transport, food, electricity, construction, and even business operations. This is why fuel prices are one of the most politically sensitive issues in any country, because the moment fuel prices rises, the cost of living rises with it. Just last month, April increased fuel prices before government interventions and subsidy announcement reportedly led to slight reductions in petrol and diesel cost. But barely weeks later, prices are now rising again. And Kenyans are asking, where is the Serikali ya Mboga? Where is the Asla nation that promised economic relief? Because for many citizens, life is no longer about surviving month to month. It is becoming about surviving day to day. I'll see you in the next episode.